push for voting protections in response to the recent ballot restrictions in several states, like Texas, where a Republican-sponsored bill, if signed, would contain some of the most restrictive voting measures in the entire country. It would eliminate 24-hour voting and drive-through voting. The bill also prohibits Sunday voting before 1 p.m., a direct attack on the Souls to the Polls Sunday Get Out the Vote campaigns used by, you guessed it, black churches. It would also make it easier for a judge to overturn an election without requiring any evidence whatsoever that fraud actually changed the outcome of a race. So you can see why Texas Democrats on Sunday stirred up some good trouble, staging a last-ditch walkout in order to prevent a vote from being held before the midnight deadline. Joining me now is Texas State Representative Chris Turner, the Democratic caucus chair who organized the walkout. I first want to thank you and your colleagues for showing us the meaning of fight. I think there are some Democrats, no disrespect to the Democrats in Washington, but they might have needed that demonstration. So I want to thank you for that. That's just me talking here. I want to ask you about one of these provisions. A guy named Travis Clardy, who's one of the bill negotiators, he claimed the 1 p.m. Sunday start time, the gutting of Souls to the Polls, was just an error, and that he looks forward to fixing it in the special session. Your thoughts?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be with you. And all 67 members of our caucus led on this and made it possible to defeat this bill. So all credit to all members of our Democratic caucus in Texas. The provision in that bill, I spoke at length on the House floor Sunday night about that because it is a direct attack on Souls to the Polls. And many churches in Texas and across the country have a time-honored tradition of engaging in to get out the vote after Sunday worship. And obviously changing the start time from the morning to 1 p.m. Is an attempt to cut off access to the polls after church and create a line once the polls actually do finally open at 1 p.m., both of which have a suppressive effect on right to vote. And what I talked about this extensively, as did other members on the House floor Sunday night. Not once did a Republican say, "Oh, it was a typo." Right. So that's a little bit of revisionist history, I'm afraid.
Yeah, they did the same sort of squeal and retreat in Georgia when they tried to do the same thing there. The most terrifying aspect of this bill, and all of it is bad, is the idea that a judge could simply say, I overturn this election, don't have to prove any fraud to change the outcome. This is straight up tyranny. I wonder how, in your view, I don't know if you're a lawyer, how can that be legal?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I agree with your analysis. It is terrifying to think that a judge could overturn the election without any evidence, essentially. And it's important to note that this language, this provision, had never been seen before until this final version of the bill was filed sometime on Saturday. And so neither the House nor the Senate had considered this at any point during the legislative session. It came out of nowhere. And it was just one of the many outrageous aspects of Senate Bill 7, which is why it had to be defeated.
Yeah, the Governor Abbott, who in theory would benefit from this provision, meaning he could stay in power as long as he wanted because a judge could simply say, no, he won, even if, let's say, Beto O'Rourke runs against him and beats him. He says he's going to sign it. Not only that, but in this special session, he's also threatening to fine you all for walking out, fining the House Democrats. My understanding is you guys make like $600 a month, so it's not like he's going to. I mean, what do you make of his threats?
Yeah, that is true. That is our salary. We do receive a per diem during session. But look, I think it's absurd. The legislature is a co-equal branch of government to the governor. So the idea that the governor can zero out the legislature is absurd. And so I don't know what the governor is talking about. But look, the governor should be calling a special session this summer to address our skyrocketing rate of uninsured in the state of Texas, address real reforms to our historic winter storm and the grid failure that we suffered just a few months ago. Those are the things that the governor should be focused on, not on passing more vote suppression bills and not worrying about legislative appropriations. So that's what I hope the governor will return his focus to.
The challenge is that he doesn't have to do that. The problem with sort of these authoritarian style governments means you don't have to take care of the people. You don't have to give them heat when there's a winter storm. You don't have to do anything for them because they can't vote you out. They can't get rid of you. You're in there and you stay there forever. And that's what Texas is starting to look like. You've had attacks on the press, kicking out reporters so they couldn't observe what was happening. This is like straight up authoritarian. It is what people in Washington, Republicans, want to duplicate. So my question to you is, has there been any pushback from industry, from business? Are you going to see some of the same reactions that we saw when Georgia tried this?
Well, I hope so, and I think that is the right question to ask. And I will say, in Texas, we saw American Airlines, Dell Computer, and other companies come out a couple of months ago with strong statements in opposition to these vote suppression measures. But we need to see more businesses do that, and we need to see them keep up a sustained campaign against further efforts to pass anti-voter legislation like SB 7, because, as you say, the Republicans will bring it back. It's wrong, and we need to defeat it.
And last question, very quickly, would H1 help you? Would that bill, S1, help you guys?
Absolutely, and we need a John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We need a strong federal Voting Rights Act to protect voters in Texas and across the country from these suppressive efforts.
I think it goes without saying. Texas State Representative Chris Turner, thank you.